your host, the Vern, and we have a special guest with us today. He is the writer and director of a very cool exploitation feature, Sacred Set Stalls. We have with us right now Mr. David Wilde. Hello, sir.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much for the invite. Really appreciate it to talk to you. Thanks a lot.
You are our first guest from overseas. All right.
Right. Oh, great.
I'm very, very excited and honored to have you on the show. Where are you from originally?
Scotland. Scotland
Okay.
in the UK.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how did you get into filmmaking? Like what?
I started off in acting, really. I got into acting, and then I got kind of bored being on sets, waiting for 18 hours to say 3 lines. So I would start writing on the sets if I was doing a bit of acting, and it really started with writing screenplays, bad screenplays, throwing them away. It kind of went from there. I kept acting going side by side, but I get more into the filmmaking than I did the acting. Even though I still do acting, but it kind of came from there. And if you're an actor, you kind of write dialogue that you want to hear as well as an actor rather than just a screenwriter. So I think the acting helped a little bit,
Okay. Well, that's very cool.
It was a kind of slow progression that way, And then I made an industry movie quite a few years ago, and I went from there, really,
Okay. Well, very nice. What was the industry movie that you made?
It was a comedy caper movie that I got financed the usual way you finance movies, pre-sales and producers, which was set in Scotland, about 2 characters at their territory. They went to Los Angeles to try and get, they were actors, they went to Los Angeles to try and get work. But they couldn't get any work because they looked like 2 guys from The Sopranos. They didn't look Scottish, or they were going up for Braveheart 2 and stupid shit like that. And
sure.
then they went to Las Vegas, so it was a silly sort of caper movie. But there was too many cooks on it. There was too many producers on it. It was my first movie, so I never got the movie I wanted to get in the script because there was too many voices on it, which you usually get in a big budget movie. You don't usually get a 300,000 movie, So, and it wasn't the movie that I liked, and I had an 8-year gap. I got other offers, but I just hated the whole process that I just kind of disappeared for about 8 years until the technology started to come in and I could see a little bit of freedom in how I could do things there,
Oh, very.
So yeah, that's how I started.
Very nice, very nice. I'm glad you made the transitions into making film. Now, before you made Psycho Set Stalls, have you done work in like commercials, or have you done work in music videos, or have you done other prior work directing before you made this movie?
Yeah. I mean, I did 5 or 6 features that I produced myself, that I wrote myself, directed, because when you make it, it's like Robert Rodriguez, when you first make a movie, you usually make a movie with your own money to control the vision of it. I did it the opposite way. I got an industry budget. So I wanted to go back the way and learn how to produce, write, direct, and fund my own movies. So over the last good few years, 12 years, I've shot my own features and shots and corporate videos and social media videos as a day job, to try and to come to the point where I can create a concept in my head and I can deliver it to the platforms myself, whereas my first movie, I couldn't do that. I was so many cooks there, But obviously the industry's changed a lot over the years.
Sure.
The challenge isn't making movies today. The challenge is making a living from it,
Well, and I bet all those like social media videos you made and other elements before you started making features really taught you how to budget a production.
Exactly.
So
exactly. Exactly. I made a lot of movies to learn what not to do, so that when I do, I'm going to go back to the industry as well for some budget, so that I used all my own money over the years and a lot of that crowdfunding to make mistakes, so that when I do get bigger money, I know exactly what I'm doing. I know how to control things. I know how I've got more of a vision now that I never had before. If I get a producer on board, I go, where are we spending the money? Because I know where the money goes. I know where it shouldn't go, because that affects your creativity. So it's really like an apprenticeship where I think filmmakers should learn to make movies with no money, so that you learn every single aspect of movie making, because it can be a long It can be a short career, but it can be a long career. You can do it at Clint Eastwood's age. You can do it. Do you know what I mean? So I think you should learn every part of it. Right down to learning editing, shooting. I shoot my own cameras. I never done that in my first movie. So that's what I've been doing over the last few years. But Psycho Sex Dolls was really a sort of decision to make something more sort of. I was making crime movies for quite a while, so I wanted to do a complete U-turn and do something. I don't want to be labelled, so I wanted to do something completely different.
I love that. And yes, that's kind of a good segue right now into Psycho Sex Dolls, which is your latest movie in production, starring, and I'm just trying my best to pronounce the cast members' names here, Stella Paris and Simon Weir, Kieran Coulter, Jamie Jay, and Emma Cole.
Yeah, Jamie Jones, Emma
Jamie
Cole.
Jones.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Now, many of our listeners and watchers have really no idea what Psycho Sex Dolls is. I mean, the title itself should explain it already. I mean, that's what I love about it so much. It just says it right there in the title what you're getting for it. There's sex dolls that go psycho, all right?
There you go. You don't need a synopsis or a picture or a trailer.
I don't even need a goddamn tagline for it, okay? Which I fucking love about the movie so much.
A trashy porno filmmaker, kind of Ed Wood meets kind of Boogie Nights, where and he's lost all his actresses because he doesn't pay them anymore properly, and they're doing their OnlyFans. They make their own movies, so he's got a studio. He's got a little studio. And he's got a financer, and the financer says, we're not making any money anymore. So he gives him 7 days to come up with an idea to make movies with actresses for cheap. So he basically gets an email from a sex doll company and says he can beta test these 3 dolls. But they're special. They're AI dolls. They're very realistic. So he's got nothing to lose. So he gets the dolls, and they're incredibly realistic, like real women. And his financer comes along and he's blown away, but his financer doesn't think that we can make movies with these dolls. His financer starts to think he's got strip clubs, his friends have got clubs and escort agencies that he could get a deal with a manufacturer to get these dolls into clubs all over the world and be a billionaire. But the filmmaker just wants to make his films in the studio. He doesn't give a shit about all that, Mm-hmm. But one of these dolls, he's been programmed with the wrong chip. She's got a very advanced chip, so as the weeks go on, as they start to make movies in the studio, she starts to learn. She's been really exploited. She's really smart, really intelligent. And of course, at the end of the movie, I don't want to give too much away,
sure.
But it's, the fantasy is going to turn into some nightmare. That's when it takes a turn. For the horrific side. In
a way, it kind of reminded me of like a sexploitation feature of Ex Machina. If you ever saw that feature.
I haven't saw it. No.
Incredible movie. It's about an AI.
What's it called?
Ex Machina.
Ex Machina. Right.
It's from the same writer of Dread. And I know all of my listeners right now and watchers are just yelling at Alice Garland. Very good feature with Daniel Gleason and Oscar Isaac and Alicia Vikander. And he plays a programmer who goes to travel and meet the CEO of like an Apple company. Right. That's Oscar Isaac's character. And he's there to test a new AI robot played by Alicia Vikander to see if she's human or not. And then things go from good to bad and whatnot.
Yeah. I think if you look, every movie's been done before. There is no such thing as an original movie, but you can try. I mean, you get Westworld, you've got all these movies, but you can try and bring your own angle, and your own slant to it, and your own version, and your own sort of vision to it. That you, when I try, here's back to you said about the title. When we go and watch movies today, and we're pulling up Netflix or we're pulling up on Amazon, right? You know yourself, you're flicking. It's mainly the blockbusters or the Tom Cruise movies or the superhero movies. So you get seconds. So I wanted to try and reverse engineer a story, where the title, I just come up with the title first. If somebody sees the title that's maybe into that type of movie, there's the title. What's the next thing? The poster. Because I learned that from the Cannes Film Festival, when I used to be with sales agents, and they used to say, David, get a title, get a poster, So I got the title, I got the poster, I done an AI poster. And then I got that, and then the movie kind of jumped out at me, but I didn't know what the fuck the movie was. I just had a title on a poster. But then I was willing to dump it. I was willing to scrap it if I couldn't personalise that movie. So when I came out, it was, okay, who's got these sex dolls? Is it some weirdo pervert? No, it's a filmmaker. It's a filmmaker because I can relate to that. And he hasn't, he's lost these actresses. And then a financer comes in because I can relate to that. If you watch Ed Wood, you've always got the financiers with the baptizers or the guys got the meat factory. There's always potential conflict there and humour there. So I actually kind of constructed something that was reverse engineered so that, because today most filmmakers don't think about their market, who's going to watch this. So I kind of done it in reverse. But normally I come up with an idea for a character and then worry about the poster later.
Sure.
I've done this the opposite way. And it actually worked out a really good experience for me. I kind of enjoyed the experience. I enjoyed writing the script. You would think it would be a very contrived thing coming up with a title first, but it actually worked out really creative for me,
That's beautiful. I generally love the title of Psycho Sex Dolls because when I saw that on social media, I'm like, all right, yes, follow. I gotta know everything about this movie. I watched the trailer, and for a little older pervert like myself, just beautiful women naked and also doing some murders, just absolutely beautiful.
Now I wanted to, at one point I was going to change the title because I thought, it delivers on all those things, but it's a different type of movie as well. It gets you in the door, but there's more to it as well. It's about themes, but at the same time, so I put a little Instagram post out on Twitter, a little poll, and it says, who likes the title Psycho Sex Dolls, or who likes AI dolls or something else? 90% it was Psycho Sex Dolls. So that's why I left it,
That's brilliant. And I know a lot of filmmakers, you look back to Roger Corman, he did the same sort of thing too. Get a title, get a poster, and just get the movie out there. So I think that's kind of a brilliant thing.
Well, Roger Corman,
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, a big fan of Roger Corman, over the years, and it's the way that movies were made. And I've been to the Cannes Film Festival a few times, and a lot of those posters, especially Canon Films in the 80s.
Yes.
Canon Films used to have posters that were movies that were never even going to be made. And they had the poster first, and then they pre-financed the movies through the poster, So that was the kind of thinking, if I couldn't raise the money, I raised the money on Kickstarter to shoot it. If I couldn't raise the money, at least I could go somewhere there with a title on a poster. That was the idea,
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. So I do have to just take a little break right now because I forgot to mention one of our sponsors. First of all, thank you everyone for listening to Cinema Recall on your favorite podcast platforms. We're available everywhere on Spotify and on Good Pods, Apple Podcasts. We're also available on Newsly. Newsly is an all-in-one audio app for your iOS and Android phone. It picks up the most trending articles on the web and reads them to you in a natural human voice. For the first time ever, the entire web becomes listenable. Stop scrolling, start listening. Go to newsly.me, use the promo code RECALL, and get 1 month free of their premium service. Now that I got our little ad spot out of the way, I wanted to ask you, because when watching this trailer, I noticed a lot of homages to other movies. I noticed homages to A Clockwork Orange, which I'm holding the VHS up right here. And then I also noticed, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong about this, but I did see just a little bit of Switchblade Sisters.
And there's a slight influence from those. And
then Spring Breakers, which I don't have the DVD for that one right now. I saw some images of Spring Breakers with the girls in the pink masks with machine guns. The Harmony Frame feature. And then I'm wearing the shirt right now, as you can see.
Oh, Valley Dolls, Beyond the Valley Dolls, definitely a Russ Meyer fan.
Got the DVD there, huge Russ Meyer fan. But who are, I mean, that's what I kind of got from the trailer. But who are your influences? Do you have influences, David?
I've got so many influences. Like, as a filmmaker, everybody has influences. I mean, in my early days, I had no influence because when I was a child, I'd go to the cinema and see blockbusters. There was a lot of... When I went into the cinema as a child, it was movies like Star Wars and Close Encounters had just started. And there was B movies like disaster movies and The Land That Time Forgot. There was all those cheap B movies. But as the 80s went on in VHS, then I'd watch Martin Scorsese. But also, as well as those gritty junkads of 80s real movies, drama movies. There was also Roger Corman. There was over the last few years, Joe Sarno. It's not so much
Just
all the movies, but it's the spirit of the filmmakers that I like. Because there's like Jess Franco. I always get his name wrong. It was Jess Franco. Made a lot of bad movies, but I like the spirit of filmmakers that just experiment and do their own thing.
sure.
And they don't conform just to the studio system. They try and experiment and mix things up. So I think, but within all that, you've got to find your own voice. You've got to
Well,
find your own,
I'm reminded of like filmmakers like Harmony Korine and
Yeah,
John
yeah,
Waters, and even like
yeah,
Andy Sedaris, who made Hard
yeah,
Ticket to Hawaii and
yeah. You made a
all those
lot of those. Yeah, 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 yeah.
other great
You've got
like
to find. You got. I mean, the homages. In terms of you're talking about Clockwork Orange and those movies within the movie, as the filmmaker, Damien Self is a trashy porno filmmaker. He makes those movies within the movie. So he's making porn parody movies of those movies,
okay.
So there's about 4 of those in the movie, short films. That's his movies,
They
Yeah,
or
yeah,
Digital Playground, they do very good mockbusters of big blockbuster movies, but
yeah,
they are shot in a way that they really cared about the movie. Like I don't know which one it was, but someone did a adult parody of Batman the TV series,
yeah, yeah.
and they got the original cars and the set designs, so it looks like an older version of that TV show just with set scenes in there. And I found
Yeah,
that to be
yeah.
a very kind of a
That,
cool thing of that.
that's Oh yeah, they make all those parody versions of the mainstream movies and superhero movies as well. Well,
Mm-hmm.
they used to. I don't know if they still do it, but that's the ironic thing, and it's that because they're so kind of well produced looking, they're bad, but they're meant to be bad because they're porn movies.
Yeah.
But they're well produced, So that's the sort of idea within the film. There's a story within the film about the dolls and about the filmmaker, and I realised as well that actually it's so ironic because it sounds like a really trashy exploitation film, and it's got those elements, but it's got a more personal film in there as well because it's about a filmmaker having to do as he's told by the corporate guy that's funding the thing as well, which ends up biting them back because the dolls take over. So, and there's sequels in there. So I think you're trying to find your own sort of personal story within a genre, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You wrap it within a genre. If you just I want to make an art movie about the movie business, it'd probably be really boring and really sort of, whingy. Whereas if you
Yeah.
wrap it up in a piece of entertainment, then you can get your message in there. It's also got themes about AI today. AI is a very current theme, and it's going to be for a long time. So you want to say something about AI, but you want to put it in there in a sort of fun way, rather than preachy and hit you over the head with a message. You want to
Oh,
keep it
sure.
subtle, So that's the kind of way that genre is obviously good for where, but originally it was going to be more of a horror, but with a title like Psycho Sex Dolls, well, you can make it a comedy horror. It's about everything. It's about black humour. It's about a drama. It's definitely got horror at the end. So it's got a kind of mixture, and it's an exploitation film as well. You can say it's like a sexploitation film. So it's got about everything, really, But it's got a solid sort of story, that's the main
Yeah.
thing. A
Uh,
story's needed,
I like the fact too that it looks like to be a very fun movie, and there'll be a great message involved with it. But when I go to watch movies like this, I'm not necessarily looking for like a message right away. But if it
Yeah, no, yeah,
gets me on, if it gets me on that, I
yeah,
like it. I like movies where I go to enjoy it, and then if it gets me to a message,
yeah.
I like that very much.
Yeah, yeah.
And-
That's why I'm a fan of Larry. I like Larry Cohen movies as well. Larry Cohen's movies. Um,
oh, did he do
where
the? Did he do the stuff?
he's done the stuff.
Okay.
And Black Caesar, Phone Booth, but he's done a whole bunch of 70s movies where they'd always have sort of messages in them, but they would be exploitation movies and black exploitation. So a big fan of Larry Cohen.
Oh,
Some people think, "Oh, I'm a fan of Tarantino." I'm not. To be honest, I'm not a big fan of Tarantino because Tarantino was a fan of Larry Cohen. I like Tarantino's first movies, but kind of after that, I'm a fan of the Jackie Browns and the Reservoir Dogs, but not so much the bigger mainstream movies.
okay, sure. I
Yeah.
think what I like about Tarantino, even if you don't like his films, I do like his love of films and when tried to
Oh,
preserve
absolutely,
older
absolutely,
films. So
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the one thing I do agree with Tarantino is that Tarantino always says, a lot of filmmakers say, I'm making this movie for the audience, and which is quite, and I understand that as well, but it's quite an arrogant thing to say because you don't really know what an audience is going to like, right? But Tarantino does say, I'm making the movie for me and everybody else is invited. And I kind of get that, understand that. You've still got to make the movie you want to make and not be too contrived because Hollywood makes movies for audiences. We know what you like, so we're going to give you this, which is a bit arrogant. I think you should make the movie you want to make, and if people like it, great, you know.
well,
You know.
that does bring me to another little topic since you brought up what audiences like or don't like, David. Because in this day and age, trying to release a movie that does have a lot of like sexuality and nudity to it, some people may find that to be problematic in a way.
Yeah,
And they might think that you're just doing this just to have beautiful naked women, and
yeah.
everyone talks about like the male gaze and everything. And when watching the trailer for this is very much like a female empowerment revenge movie. That's why I brought up like Switchblade Sisters earlier. But then I'm thinking about movies like, I Spit on Your Grave as well. That's a movie that's been trashed a lot by critics, and that movie's been reevaluated by a lot of women critics too, to saying that it's not all bad and everything too. So to everyone out there who watches that trailer for Sacred Sex Dolls and says, well, that movie's just trash. It's just half naked women just dance around. There's nothing more than that. You hired some OnlyFans models right there. You know,
Yeah,
do,
yeah,
do you
yeah,
get
yeah.
do you get like a little backlash or
Well, honestly, I don't care about any of that. I don't care about
sure?
anybody says anything. Here's the thing. If you want to make a movie today and you want to make a movie with sex stuff in it, it's kind of dumb because you can see anything today in porn
Yeah,
sites. So there's no value there. There is
that's
no value.
true.
There's
Oh,
none. But you can't make a movie called Psycho Sex Dolls without having some sex in it and psycho shit. So you've got to have that, right?
yeah,
Um, but I think if you've got a solid story and you're making a sexy movie, just like a Bond movie can be a sexy movie, or
yeah,
all movies are sexploitation movies. Look at all the crime dramas that you see on Netflix, real life crime. They're highly exploitive, but nobody seems to bother about those. But when it comes to sex, they seem to go a bit weird, you know.
that's
Um,
true.
but if you make a movie that you've got to deliver what it says on the tin, yeah, you've got sexy women, you get thrills, you've got spills, you've got blood, you've got high drama. If you just make the movie to get three women and put them on a box and a cover, and you've not got a good story, whatever, then that's just cheap and crap and dumb. Because
Exactly.
if somebody says that to me to do that, I could have done that years ago. That would be lazy. It's like,
Yeah,
if I can't get my story in there, a good story, and try and wrap it within a genre, it's pointless because you
yeah,
make a few sales and that'll be it. Because Psycho Sex Dolls, I'm not a big fan of sequels, but I'm a fan of sequel if there's a universe, if there's a bigger world. So the actual birth of the dolls here in this story, where they kind of come alive, is only the spark to the bomb. There's like a nuclear bomb in sequels that becomes like something out of
that's
there's an element of war games for 1984 in it and the sequels. It goes beyond because the dolls become influencers, they become powerful. The other dolls gets an army of dolls. We've got Zelensky that was an actor and a comedian. We've got Trump who's a comedian as well.
yeah,
All,
yeah.
global leaders are like comedians, and so there's an element that becomes later if I do the sequels. And if I'd done the first one, if it got remade, if the first one got remade, that would turn into more of a hardcore sort of thriller, real horror, like noir sort of really serious kind of hardcore version of a movie, like, you know. So you're trying to do something that has got for me, it's about the story. The story is really important. But if it's just a bunch of women in there half naked, then it's not going to last long. Do you know what I mean?
That's
it's
true.
not going to go anywhere, you know.
There was a video essay I saw about set scenes in movies and how they've been dwindling down as
Yeah,
like the years
yeah,
go on. Right there,
yeah.
like they used to be like really big, like in the late '80s and even in the '90s or so. And she goes into these issues about people just feel uncomfortable watching set scenes and whatnot. And I'm like, sexuality is just everywhere. It's everywhere you go. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
can no longer
yeah.
be stopped or
AI
and
is the new world, the way it's going to be.
that I've seen. other programs where they do have these real life dolls and they put AI chips into them. So I've actually seen this thing happening. And you're just taking it and doing a sort of a satirical stance
Yeah,
on
yeah,
AI.
because like if you want to reflect the world, we live in a very sexual world. We live in a very violent
Oh,
world. I mean, the most of the violence we see comes through the news, not from movies. It comes from the news,
yeah.
So if you don't reflect the world in your movies in the current time, some of the best horrors have came through the times that we lived in, where it was Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the time of the Manson family. If you don't really reflect the world in movies the way the world is, you don't really have anything there but a pure exploitation movie that's really just there to shock, So it's kind of, you've got to put what is in the world as well, in your movies. So that I think,
Yeah, well, and like there's been like a lot of other like exploitation features that have had messages in them too, which I
yeah,
found to be very cool. Even going back to something like Beyond the Value of the Dolls,
yeah,
which
yeah,
is an exploitation film made by Russ Myers and written by Russ Myers and Roger Ebert. That's right,
yeah.
film
Roger
critic
Ebert,
Roger
yeah,
Ebert
yeah,
helped write this movie,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
very bizarre. Which was like pitched as a sequel to Value of the Dolls,
yeah, yeah.
and those two just made a completely different movie. It's a movie that could not be made today in a big budget studio system.
Because
It
it
would
was the
have
first, it was a bit of a budget movie. It was, I think Hollywood was trying to get into. The thing I liked about Russ Meyer was that he controlled his own vision for everything, right
oh
from
very.
you know, that's really
Have you
important,
Speaking of Russ Myers, because I've only seen Beyond the Value of the Dolls and Faster Pussycat Kill Kill.
Yeah.
I have not got a chance to see like Vitson and his other features just because they're
Mm-hmm.
just not widely available. But I know that Russ Myers just has his own vision of things, just very much like you have your own vision of how you
I
want
think
movies to be.
I'm just starting to get my vision and things the way I want to go and make the movies that I want to make rather than making the movies it thinks for a market, because I did that for a few years.
Sure.
You know.
I do want to talk real briefly about your cast and how you got
Yeah.
them together, if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
So,
Yes. Cool.
what the lead doll is Stella Paris? Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's your lead.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did you get her involved?
I saw Stella on Twitter on a little picture. She was in somebody's anthology sort of horror movie or something. I'd just seen a still. And I remember keeping the still. I remember favoriting it. And look, you can see thousands of women online. So, I don't know what struck me about Stella, but I remember filing away. And I didn't even know I wasn't casting cycles. What I usually do is I usually research people. I usually listen to them in interviews online. I've got to like the person. I've got to like them as a person first. So I basically attached Stella first. I gave her a phone, talked to her on the phone, told her the pitch of the movie, told her the title, and right away she loved the title. I had an AI poster. She loved the poster. I says, I haven't got the money for the movie yet. I haven't, So she was on board. She liked the whole pitch, and she was trying to get into, she's done adult content, but she's done some regular movies, and she was trying to get more into regular movies. So basically, she was the very first person attached. She's the first person that I've seen for that character. Really, she was like the germ of the whole thing.
Oh, sure. All right,
You
very
know.
nice. And then your director in the movie is played by Simon Weir. Is that correct?
Simon Weir is a Scottish actor that has been gone for a while, but he's been a long time as an actor. He was in a soap, a Scottish soap for like 8 years. He was one of the main characters, and then that finished, and he was in Trainspotting 2. He's been in all sorts of movies and little roles here and there, but he's such a fun, great actor to work with. He's one of those actors that we're going to do this, he's just such a joy to work with. And he's natural, but he's also flamboyant. I needed a character that was pretty much larger than life for this, if you're going to get a kind of, not an Ed Wood type character, but a character that's just so over the top, but he can also play intense,
Well, that's the great thing too from the trailer that I saw. Yeah, I got little vibes of Ed Wood, but not in the way that, oh, he's just making this terrible, trashy movie. I got the vibes of, here's a person that really loves to make
See, he's
movies
taking it
and
serious, yeah, yeah,
and
he's
and,
very,
and, and still taking it seriously.
yeah,
He's making this like exploitation feature, but
yeah.
yeah, he wants to treat it as like the best,
Shakespeare, yeah,
awesome, the
yeah,
Shakespeare, like the
yeah.
freaking like David Lean of exploitation
Yeah.
features right there.
If he was doing a Shakespeare, it'd be topless Shakespeare, though.
It's topless. That should be. I would love that. Get a Midsummer's Night Dream, but all topless women. All right, very cool. I love that very much. But how did you get Simon involved in this? I don't know if I heard that.
I'd worked with Simon before on a couple of crime things that I'd done. He played a drunken, womanizing politician that I had in a crime series that's on Amazon. So I'd worked with him a few times before, and I worked really fast with him and really well. Didn't have to talk much. One of those actors that he's got this, and he loved the script. He really loved the script, so he was on board. So I'd worked with him before, and you've got to know that you can get on well with people. I like people that I know that I can. I don't having talent isn't enough. You've got to have. I've got to. That's why John Cassavetes or Matt Scorsese or Tim Burton worked with the same people, because you want to know that you can get on with people well.
Plus, you want to develop like a trusting relationship because
yeah.
Plus, you two can kind of work on the character together better if you know each other. Since you worked with him before,
Exactly.
and you guys are establishing this character, you can
And
work better, right?
Knowing the process of working, because this was shot very, very fast in 6 days, a lot of actors would freak at that. Whereas Simon was used to working fast because he was in a soap opera. So in a soap opera, sometimes he had to do 40 scenes a day, So we never did, So he was used to working really fast, but still being really creative, So it didn't freak him out. He likes working fast. He's got a lot of energy. The character's like a coke fiend, but the way Simon works, he's got that energy, but he's no coke, So
nice.
So that was a no-brainer to cast him. I'm really glad that I cast him.
And then your other actors, the Jamie and Emma.
Jamie and Emma, I never knew them at all. I took a chance. I took a risk on them. Again, when I knew the movie was going to go ahead, I was looking for the cast. I didn't audition them. I didn't read them. I knew I needed actresses that have done adult content because there's going to be topless and a little bit of sort of nudity, so I couldn't use conventional actresses. But at the same time, I still had to like them. So I looked online, and I'm looking for videos where I can hear them talking. I want to hear them as people, what they're like as people, because
Sure.
I don't want divas coming on the set scratching each other's eyes out. She's
Sure.
got more scenes than me. She's got more. I want people that I know that. I always say it. I like the drama in front of the camera. I like crazy shit, but behind it, I want fun, calm people that can have a laugh, and they're very, good to. So basically, I spoke to them. I phoned them up. I seen some of their videos, which was I was heavy like porn stuff. It was very light stuff. I saw some of their videos. They had a charm about them. I spoke to them. I got on well with them on the phone. They were so excited about the idea of the film as well, because I don't think they get many movie options. It's normally so that they realised that was an opportunity as well, which I wanted. I didn't just want somebody that was doing it for the money. I wanted somebody that was into the movie. They like movies. They did like movies. So Stella and the other two girls, it was really because they loved the idea of the movie. They liked movies. It wasn't just about So that's why I cast them, but they were also great to work with, because it was quite scary, because I never done any auditions. I didn't know if they would get on with each other, but they were also professional. They were also focused and so laser focused. And so they would work out, they even wanted to work longer, but I couldn't work longer because I only had the studio until 8 at night, So, so they were, I can't praise them enough. They were great. The two,
I think it's great too that because these three women who don't know each other well, they're all like in the adult industry for a certain extent, and them be able to get along with each other is a very cool thing. And I do like the fact too that you do reach out to other venues of entertainment to cast a movie too. And I think there are a lot of like great actors in the adult world as well, and this is just a certain role or persona. Like their OnlyFans is just like a persona. It's just like a
Of
character
course. And
that
sometimes
they're
they're,
playing.
and sometimes, well, look, they know how to act because if they're doing OnlyFans,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
they
yes.
know, trust me, they know how
They
to
have to
act.
do that shit because they have to appease to their clientele and be that
Absolutely.
fantasy clientele that
Um,
they want to
aye,
be.
absolutely, they know how to act, and they're
And plus,
very
they have a
strong.
great sense of business too.
Exactly. They have a good sense of business. They have a good sense of a work ethic.
Hmm.
They're very focused on a work ethic because they have to get things done. There's a lot of actors. Some actors don't have a great work ethic. They turn up and they think they don't need to learn their lines and they can just wing it. No, you gotta be focused. You gotta know your lines. You gotta know, because you can do crazy shit as long as you know what you're doing. If you know your lines, then if I say forget the lines here, you can go crazy in a scene, but you have to know that first. You have to have that discipline before you can do that. So absolutely. So for picking them, and also because it was quite scary as well because I didn't know if they could act, but at the same time, I had a safety net because it's called Psycho Sex Dolls. Stella is, they've all got lead roles, but Stella's got the main lead with lines. And I thought, okay, if they can't really act that well, then they're fucking dolls.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's
You know what I
a good
mean?
point. Yep.
So if they can act, it's a bonus. If they can act natural, and because they act like dolls first, and then they get more natural, so it actually is a nice balance. They could act. So, but if they
And
were really bad, then they're the two dogs that just look robotic.
that's
You
why I
know.
like very much in the trailer that I saw with Stella Paris's performance and the other two
Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
yeah, they looked very much robotic, and when they
Yeah.
start to get more intelligent,
But
they
it's starting to get more
still
natural.
they
Yeah.
become more natural too, but yet
Yeah.
they still look sound like dolls, like robots in a
Yeah.
way. Just they just be a little
Yeah,
bit more
yeah. So that
advanced
was a little
dolls.
safety net, and that's why I got Simon as well, Simon Weir, because he's got 30 years' experience as an actor. He's been in about 100 movies, so he actually taught them a lot on the set while because I was shooting the movie, so he actually improvised a little bit with them, got them more natural, and kind of taught them stuff. So he was, and I knew he would do that, so that's why I also cast him. He was good. And the other guy, Kieran.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that too. Kieran Chalker, who plays the producer.
Well, this is a really when you do filmmaking, there's a thing called happy accidents, and you've got to roll with things that happen. Kieran was actually a Kickstarter backer, right? When I was doing Kickstarter, he was a businessman. He owns property in London. He's an estate agent guy, but he also does acting. He's been in Napoleon's Ridley Scott, but I think it was like an extra role. He's been in little roles here and there in big movies, but it's always small roles with a few lines. And
Sure.
he wanted to do more acting, so he was asking about a role that was available. I don't sell roles, but there was a role that was available. But I said, well, look, man, I need to see your acting. I need to see your showreel. And he was on something on Amazon where he had lines. I didn't really have the part developed, but then I actually thought of the part when I saw him. I went, I've got to have a financer in there, like your Harvey Weinsteins or your Hollywood or like Ed Wood. You've got finances. I need a financer in there. So the more I researched his life, and he invests in things, I went, that is the fucking guy.
Yeah.
That's the guy.
Yep.
I mean, the guy. Hey, the guy in the movie's a bad guy, really bad guy. Kieran's a lot nicer. But it was perfect. He looked the part. He sounded the part. So he got on board as in a producing role. But he was actually perfect for the part. I'd still have cast him. So actually, the way this thing came together with the cast was really sort of, the sort of stars align with something. It's kind of organic based, but sometimes that's the way it works best. When it's too. It was kind of loose that way, and I couldn't have had a better experience with the cast. So yeah, Kieran's great in the movie as well.
Oh, that's brilliant.
You
That's
know,
brilliant. Where did you shoot this?
I shot this in a place called Edinburgh in Scotland in a
Okay.
studio. I looked for a studio because I knew that I had to shoot this in 6 or 7 days because of the budget and because of the nature of the story. So I wanted to, if this filmmaker has been making movies for years, but he's been making movies when the DVD market was in the boom, and that's all dying now.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked at other studios, but they were all very white and stark and boring looking, like photography studios, just white, you know.
Yeah.
But I wanted a studio that looked as if it had been lived in, and it had stairways and basements, and the lights had been set up for years, and they had the old lights. And I found that one. In fact, as soon as I seen it online, I got on a train to Edinburgh, and I saw the guy, and I says, "Look, I really love this studio, but I need it for a deal." And we done a deal on it, and it was originally going to be a shoot for 7 days, but I lost some of the money in Kickstarter, so I had to take it down to 6 days. So all the movie was shot in that studio, which is great in November, because if you're shooting outside in the weather in Scotland, it's very cold, and so it was all contained. You know, it was all contained. You know.
So, did you mainly fund this movie through Kickstarter, or did you have other investors? And
No,
how did you promote this to investors? And because I know a lot of our listeners are amateur filmmakers, and they want to know their biggest hurdle is to try to like raise money for their features.
Well,
so
here's what I've learned over the years, the mistakes that I've made. In my first feature, I got an industry budget of like 300,000. That's quite healthy today, but back years ago when I was shooting on film, that was classed as a small budget, you know. But if you're shooting on digital today, that's an okay budget, you know. It's a good budget.
Yeah.
So over the years, I started to shoot my own movies, but I would shoot them. I worked at McDonald's once, and I shot a feature film from McDonald's, funded from McDonald's, and then I funded other movies through credit cards. I funded a lot of them, most of them myself, and through little bits of crowdfunding from a website. So over the years, I funded most of my own films, but when it came to this film, I was really exhausted with credit cards. I couldn't fund anymore. So I hadn't been on Kickstarter for years. So I funded it completely on Kickstarter for 13, I think it was 13, around about 13,000 on Kickstarter. Although 2,000 people never delivered the money. There was a 2,000. They never paid up. You know.
Oh, jeez.
They never took their money out. They just never paid up, and Kickstarter was chasing them. So that left me, because the budget was so tight, because I was paying all the actors, especially the actresses. They were a bit more expensive because they're doing nudity, which is right, you know. So the money went on the actors. The money went on the studio, because the studio cost about 4,500, you know. And then, of course, you've got to feed people for a week. And you can get all the props. I had my own film equipment. I had all that.
Well,
you can hustle that, but I was 2,000 down. So my point I'm trying to make, I think if people are going to fund things when you're making your first movies, have your movie that costs $500, make a short for $500, then make your $1,000 movie, and then make your, you know. But if you want to make, before the Kickstarter happened, I got 2 offers of budgets. I got an offer for £175,000 to make the movie once they had the pitch, but they would own the movie. They would distribute the movie. They would they would own the sequels. You know,
they could go in and maybe change things or
change
edit
everything.
Things. Oh,
yeah, I went with the same cast. I've done that before. I've done that with my first movie. I've done a lot of small movies, but I own them all. It's all my own IP, and sometimes I get producers coming towards me to maybe remake something into a budget. So if I own the intellectual property, then I can profit from that. So somebody was offering me 175,000, but I would get paid 10,000, and I'm working on it for a year and a half, and it's like, and then I don't own it. So I'm working for, if I'm going to work for somebody else, then it's got to be Hollywood. Hollywood's got to give me 20 million. I get a big fat paycheck, and I'll put that in more movies. But in this level, so you have to work with as small money as you can if you want to own your movie. Because I can do the book version, I can do the sequels, I've done all the posters myself, I can own the intellect. If it gets remade, then I own that. So that's why you have to keep the budget as tight as possible.
This reminds me very much of like what Lloyd Kaufman has done with Trauma. And his features. Very much like he wants to like distribute everything himself. This is a studio that really like honors the filmmakers too, and has them get their stuff out there as well. I'm still kind of going back to what you said, David, earlier about Kickstarter not collecting money from people that donated money. I always thought that Kickstarter took the funds outright away from who's ever contributed into your film, and I had no idea that it was later.
If you hit the target, which I did hit the target, so if you hit the target, then Kickstarter then draws the money in, you know. But then you see everybody, and then you can see who hasn't paid through their credit card or their bank cards. There's money.
Oh,
So then
that's
Kickstarter reminds them for 2 weeks. There's no money on that card. You need to pay up, and if they haven't paid, that's it. So there was one guy that was a big chunk of money, and I messaged him, and I go, well, look, if you've changed your mind about the project, you can back out days before. You can just take your pledge out. You don't need to. You shouldn't stay in there, you know. So
that's
that, you know,
that's skeezy. That is a skeezy thing to do.
yeah, it is
Oh,
because Andy, look, that the guy that done that is still backing Kickstarter projects, which I'm really annoyed with Kickstarter. He's still backing projects, so you shouldn't be able to back any more projects, you know.
no, you should
But
probably be banned from that. All right,
but that
that was
yeah, but that left me about 2,000 down, and that was basically to feed people, costumes, everything else. So I actually went to one of the Kickstarter backers, um, because the time was running out, and I says to him, look, and I offered a little bit of a tiny investment, because I'd got the movie without investment. So he went for that last
okay.
bit of money. So and he'll definitely get his money back at some point. Probably make a profit. He will make a profit, you know. So anyway, but that's that. The movie
Yeah,
gets shot, you know.
that's fair. Well,
It got
and
done,
then
you know.
so when will this be Psycho Set Stalls? When will this be fully released
Well,
for
I'm
people to
still.
watch?
Well, this is the part. The movie's been shot, but I've still got a couple of some audio pickups. I've still got to pay the Kickstarter backers their perks, which I'm really adamant about. You've got to people fund your project. I want them to get all their perks. So I'm seeing a couple of investors to get the finishing funds, which is it's not a lot of money. If I don't get those investors, then the movie will be near the end of the year. If I get those investors, which I'm seeing a couple next week, then I'll start to release it from like May the 31st, June, you know, you know.
Because I'm asking you, David, would you submit these to any film festivals
Yeah,
around?
yeah. I'm not too big on film festivals, but there's definitely film festivals for this type of movie that I think would,
And I would, okay, there's a few theaters in my area that does play independent movies as well. And there's a couple film festivals. There's even like one theater, they're doing a thing called midnight movie specials. And
Yeah,
it'd be
that
so
sounds good.
cool
Yeah,
to get
yeah,
your movie
yeah,
into those
yeah,
theaters too. And once it does get done and everything,
yeah, yeah.
you let me know what it costs for the rights to screen it somewhere. And yeah, I would love to be able to screen this in a
Yeah,
theater
no,
at some
I
point.
definitely want to. I definitely want to see if I can get into some festivals like that because
Yeah.
that would be really good. So hopefully, a couple of months ahead, it can be done and dusted, and I can start getting out there.
Well,
Um, the, you
there's
know,
one I'm going to this weekend called the Minneapolis St. Paul International Film Festival,
right?
and they have a bunch of different categories there. So I'm just saying, if you want to like submit it to there, I can give you
Yeah.
some information
No, I'd love
about them
that.
later on.
That'd be great, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. That'd be great. Yeah, yeah, that'd be great. Some people have been sending me some festivals that they think this would be great for, so I file it and I put it in a little database. So that's great. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
because
know.
I'm very much a lover of that sort of thing there too. One more thing too before we get going here. I
Yeah,
got one more thing to mention. I mentioned about Newsly where you can listen to us. There's also one other spot you can listen to us, and that is every Sunday on Full Swap Radio. Full Swap Radio is a kink and fetish podcast network featuring all your favorite adult entertainment podcasts. And our podcast, Cinema Recall, is found on their Vanilla Sunday program. So go to fullswapradio.com on their Sunday programming, and you can listen to us at every Sunday, 8:30 p.m. on fullswapradio.com. David, this has been just a big honor being able to talk to you about this. One more thing too, because I always want to ask you about this. We mentioned about your favorite filmmaking influences that you had. But do you have like any sort of favorite exploitation features that you were a fan of growing up, or this
um,
is an homage to those type of movies too? I saw very much like an Andy Sedaris type of vibe to this, and like Russ Meyer vibe to this, and Roger Corman vibe had been. Oh, did you?
I'll be honest. I'll be honest. There is no single movie. There's so many movies. It's
Sure.
almost like it's almost like a lot of those filmmakers you talked about. It's almost like a big influence for everywhere. I could never. There's so many movies that I love, and
Oh,
your mainstream movies, right down from your Fargo's. I love Fargo's, one of my favorite movies. Um, that's such a and the Big Lebowski, which I love.
oh, yes.
I love. I love strong character-driven movies and movies that are just pretty insane characters. But I've grown over the years to learn about filmmakers that are dead that I never really knew about. Like your Joe Sarnos, the spirit of those filmmakers in some of the movies, and the kind of I like filmmakers that probably one of my favorite filmmakers is Coppola because
Oh,
Coppola is still like an experimental student filmmaker. He's just
yeah.
made $100 million movie that he funded himself from wine, and it sounds like the industry don't want it because they're saying it's like an experimental movie on $100 million. But that's what I
Well,
love about Coppola. He does his own thing.
he's been doing that for years too, because after he made The Godfather and Apocalypse Now, he did a movie called One from the Heart,
Yeah, and it
which he
collapsed him.
shot,
Yeah,
which he
yeah.
shot at his own studio
His own studio. Yeah,
and financed it himself.
yeah.
And the movie became a box office bomb so
It
badly
did.
that he
Yeah.
had to start shooting movies for other studios and taking on
Well,
other
it's,
projects,
it,
like a director for hire
he was a
type of
director of fire.
thing.
That's why he did Dracula, because he had debt. He had a lot of
Yeah.
debt, and then he started the wine business. But One from the Heart, yeah, that cost a fortune at that time. I think it was $40 million between the studio. But even after he won the Oscars for The Godfather, nobody would fund Apocalypse Now, so he had to fund that himself. Took a risk there, and
Yeah.
he still owns it today. That's because why? So I think my ultimate, filmmaker is such. Even though all those so many underground filmmakers and Abel Ferreira's. I love Abel
Oh,
Ferreira
yeah.
movies.
Bad
Big fan of,
Lieutenant. Yeah.
and King of New York. But it's the spirit of the filmmaker that I like. I like guys like Coppola, Abel Ferreira, and all those filmmakers, Larry Cohen, and and even Jess Franco, who made about 400 movies that most people have never fucking seen. He made about
Did
400.
you Palo Alto? Was that him?
I think so. Yeah, he done so many movies, and I mean a lot of them were like adult porn movies. But he done some, and he died a few years ago. Spanish filmmaker, but there's so many films. But for me, it's a combination that you've got to find your own voice, but then you take an influence for everybody in some way. Even Martin Scorsese's took an influence for people, and Tarantino certainly took an influence for
And I should let people know too that you were saying James Franco, not the actor
James.
James.
No, Jess Franco.
Jeff Franco. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
James Franco, not the actor James Franco, right?
No. He's not very much in vogue at the moment, is he?
No, that's true. That's very true. Yeah, I don't talk about him anymore. No. I gotta mention one more thing too before we get going. On that trailer, I loved the fact that you had your three actor women dressed as the Judes from A Clockwork Orange.
Oh, they love doing that. They love doing that. That was one of the favorite scenes.
Even doing the whole rear screen projection of them on the bike as they did that movie, just brilliant. And
they had a lot of fun doing it.
They looked absolutely beautiful as the Judes right there. That is just one of my favorite things ever in the world is women dressed up as Judes. So
well, some people have been buying some people have been buying posters and actually customized framed images just of them sitting on the couch. They had fun doing that. They loved doing that. They loved doing Spring Breakers. So that was good because it made the film fun when we were shooting.
And that's a great way too to get people to get more interested in this because like, oh hey, I recognize that movie, and you're just doing the little fun little take on it and everything. So they recognize those movies, and that gets them to.
Some people said, "Oh, you can get into trouble." Well, I hope so because I get some attention.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
You know,
you're trying to promote this feature as much
yeah,
as can.
it's.
So
I'm not trying to be Stanley Kubrick. I'm not trying to be Stan, obviously, but I don't think Stanley would roll in his grave because I don't think I'm any threat to Stanley Kubrick's legacy. You know,
no.
but it's just a little nod, you know, to these epic filmmakers. You know,
Well, yeah, I
um,
mean, and even just recently, there was a trailer for Matt Scene, which is the third part in the X
yeah,
Pearl,
I saw.
and
Yeah,
and that one had images of like Psycho in there too, and no one ever
yeah,
thought, hey, he's stealing
I
from
know,
Alfred Hitchcock.
I
No,
know, I know, I know,
yeah,
I know.
those movies stand
Yeah,
the test of time
yeah.
right there too, and
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. I'm looking forward
but
to seeing that. I didn't like the first one too much. I haven't seen Pearl. Have you seen
oh,
Pearl?
Pearl is so good.
Is that good? Yeah,
Pearl is so
yeah,
good. It is like a homage to 1940s
right.
melodramas.
I need to watch that. Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
got like a
yeah.
Douglas Sirk Wizard of Oz type of vibe to it. It's
Right,
brilliant, very well done.
right.
And it looks like
I
this
need.
third one is going to be homage to Brian De Palma features.
It's like a giallo. You know. It's
Uh,
like a yeah,
Very
yeah,
much a Jalo feature, yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Very cool.
yeah.
Well, now, if are people still able to, I guess, donate to this project, or I mean,
Yeah.
what can they do to follow you? Or
There's a website, psychosdolls.com, and on the website there's all sorts of stuff. There's posters, there's associate producer credits, there's mugs, there's beer glasses.
yeah,
So there's actual products that you can get now. So it's not like something you'll get in 6 months. So if you buy something, you get a credit on IMDb now. You get the poster in a couple of weeks. So
sure.
because it's print demand, so there's a lot of stuff out there. Whether if you want to buy a product, they can support the movie. If you want to buy a credit or a thank you credit, so yeah, they'll be on there
Oh,
for the next few weeks. You know,
I'm
you
going
know,
to go on the website and look for some of those posters because that
you
looks
know.
really kind of cool.
So and there'll be more stuff coming out later as well. But I want to get this finished, and I want to get into the sequel by the end of the year. I want to get straight into the sequel, you know, and keep it
Sure.
rolling. You know,
Hell,
so
I love
uh,
that. Well, tell everyone out there, David. You mentioned the website, which I'll put
yeah.
links in our show notes about this. But just tell everyone where they can find Psycho Set Stalls on social media.
It's on Twitter, it's on Instagram. But if you go to Psycho, I can't say sex dolls because that every time you mention sex, I always get shadow banned. PsychoSdolls.com is the website, and it's got links on there to the social media. My name is David Wilde. If you type in David Wilde filmmaker, all my social links will come up, and that'll have links to Psycho Sex Dolls as well. It's on Instagram, it's on Facebook, it's on Twitter, it's pretty much it's on Pinterest. It's all over the place, you know.
And I'll be
So
sure to put links to
yeah,
your pages as
and
well on the show notes.
it's quite a specific title. So even if they put it in Google, some links will come up, you know. You know.
Very
So
cool. Before we do go, David, I do have to give a shout out to our wonderful Patreon supporters because if you're a Patreon supporter, you are getting this video interview early before anyone else does. Patreon.com/Cinema Recall Pod. Big thank you to all of our supporters. And if you can help me out, David, just give them like a little like hi or yay or when I mention these names,
thanks,
okay?
yeah, thanks so much for everybody that's watched this and to all the Patreon supporters. Really, it's one of the best podcasts. I've really enjoyed your chat here.
Oh, thank you very much.
It's great when you get people that are really into movies because sometimes you don't get as much. So it's been a fun
Like,
chat. So thanks everybody support them on Patreon. You know,
oh, thank you, David. I will say this: if you ever do like more series of this, I would love to come on just to be an extra. I want to be killed by a second set. I would love to be killed by a second set stall.
Well, I get that request all the time.
Oh, I'm sure you do.
Which is great. I get it all the time. I want to be murdered by a psycho sex doll. If I get to the third movie is set in LA and Las Vegas.
Oh.
And there's a lot of extra scenes in that. So if I get to the third movie, then you can be killed by a psycho sex doll. Yeah.
Woo! Life goal completed there. All right, so shout out to our Patreon users. So shout right now, thank you to Mr. Jason Soto from Rabbit Hole Podcast. Thank you, Jason. Give a shout out to Jeanette Mittenham from AKA Jeanette. Thank you, Jeanette. Matt and Ashley from Ashley at the Movies, appreciate you very much. Linda Castro from Bed Knobs and Broomflits, thank you very much. Mr. Donnie Roberts, who writes the Deep Sea Anthologies and is our special guest for our Donnie's Choice episode. Thank you very much, Donnie. And then we got to thank Harvey Andrus, who doesn't have a website. He's just our friend who likes to give us money. So thank you, Harvey. Appreciate that very much. And lastly, Jen McQuaid from Shocked and Applaud. Thank you very much, Jen. If you want to be like these individuals and get a shout out and get episodes early, plus some bonus episodes, head on over to patreon.com/cinemarecallpod. For everyone else, you can find us on our website, cinemarecall.net. And we are on Twitter. I'm not calling it X. Fuck that. Twitter. Find me on Twitter at cinema_recall and on Facebook, Cinema Recall. Just type in your little search engine. We're right there. We also have a Facebook group called Crack. Cinema Recall's awesome cinematic club with a K. Become a crackhead and join our Facebook group. All right. So thank you very much to our guest here, David Wilde, the director of Psycho Set Dolls. I am looking so forward to this feature. This looks awesome and very cool. And I'm probably going to go and buy some of those posters later on this weekend.
Well, I'll definitely, when I release the feature, I'm going to do some private streams. So you'll be one of the first that gets a private stream yet. So
what?
So, yeah, I'm going to
really?
see some private stream. Yeah.
Holy shit! Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And I cannot wait to watch this, and I will review this on the website once it gets released wide and everything like
Thanks,
that.
Man. So thanks a lot, man. Appreciate the chat. Really loved it.
Thank you so much, buddy. I greatly appreciate that. Do you have any last words to say before I just end this live stream?
Just to thank everybody that watches us, everybody in the Patreon, everybody on your social platforms. Big shout out to Cinema Recall. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. And It's been great. Thanks a lot.
And I should let listeners know, too, that we have a couple of episodes coming out here soon. I know we're going to be doing an episode with our guest from the Cinemicos podcast and my friend Ashley. We're talking about the movies of Ryan Gosling, and we're going to be reviewing Lars and the Real Girl and The Nice Guys. So definitely look forward to that episode. And then we'll have more later as it comes on. All right. Love you all very much. Oh, don't forget to check out our last episode with Kaylee from Once Over with Kaylee, talking about Howard the Duck, one of my favorite movies of all time. And enjoy that. And I'll talk to you later. Thanks for listening, everybody. Love you all. Goodbye. All right. So stop that.